Welcome back to the Frith Guild podcast. I'm your host, Eric.
I'm co-host Scott.
And today we'll be going over chapter 41 through 45 of World Serpent Arcanist. Before we get into it, we do also want to remind everybody to like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff for us to let us know that we're doing good. And I also want to remind everybody that we have the Frith Chronicles Wiki link down in the description below, along with the Capital Station Discord server. So that way you can go and join in on the fun over there. And I want to remind everybody that we have Kronos Warlock coming out November 26th. So in about 3 weeks from the date that this episode is airing on the 6th of November. I know I had to get pushed back just a little bit, but it's okay. Well, we had to wait a little bit longer for Time Mark Warlock, so I guess we can wait just a couple weeks for Kronos Warlock to be coming out. So we also have the Labyrinth Arcanist coming out December 10th, so everybody getting ready for that one. I know I am so excited. And with that, we'll get into chapter 41, the Shale Runestone.
So where we left off, we have seen Mr. Peanut, Gentleman Arcanist, is looking to hire some hands to go get the World Serpent. Fane does go tail him. This is like his best ability with the invisibility. So Volke is really curious about the water because the fountain is absolutely disgusting. And Luther says that the magic is essentially corrupted, which causes the rot to come up in the water. As they're sneaking around, Fane actually ends up scaring Volke and almost getting hurt. So the second time this book he snuck up on Volke. The first one's a little more effective, but Volke's got to be a little more careful, I think.
Especially because he had Retribution drawn and like ready to go.
Yeah, he was about to murder him.
I feel like Fane, there's a combination here. Fane should have been a little bit more, as he walks up, or I don't want to say Volke should be a little bit less willing to stab people, but he's got people trying to kill him, so
I'll excuse that one. They do end up being able to get Fane to augment them with invisibility. We find out the ship's made of null stone, which is kind of concerning for a few reasons. One, essentially, if they lose the invisibility, it's gone forever. They can't get it. Well, not forever. It's gone while they're on the ship. They can't get it back. And also, there's no shadow stepping. If Luther comes out of the shadows, he can't go back into them. So puts a wrinkle in the plan a little bit. They are able to sneak onto the ship and kind of hear talkings that there's a search party being gathered. Most interesting news that comes up is that they do have a Shale runestone with just a picture of a wolf on it. And this is the runestone for the Fenris wolf, which is the second of the god creatures. They're going around and Fane is actually a little uncomfortable in the situation. He's like, I thought we were just trying to cure everyone of the plague. I thought we were just looking for the Huntsman Guild. I want to listen to Zelfrey. No one else does. Can we not go on this ship?
But Volke is essentially like a lieutenant, or even I would almost say he's a captain, like an 03 in the guild. So he kind of has that leeway of being able to make his own decisions, going back and saying, hey, we're going to go do this, and just deucing out. I know Zelfrey still outranks him, but I love that Fane of all people that absolutely loathed Zelfrey at the beginning decided that he wants to listen to Zelfrey now.
Of course. Their plan is to get Karna, have her play another, I don't know what to call them, the member of the Black Throne. Second Ascension, I guess. I don't know if they're quite that. Maybe? Guard, yeah. Person on the ship. And sneak aboard. Fane, as they're gathering their advice, they start talking about the Addie situation again, and Fane just says, kill it with fire. I appreciate it.
Poor Volke.
Not a lot of good advice going on.
No.
And as they're preparing themselves, they do have a lady of the night who comes to approach them and try and solicit some favors, and eventually is scorned off a little bit. But that does bring us to chapter 42.
Chapter 42, the Black Throne. They're starting to sneak up on the ship, and they're basically like Rainbow Six going dark. We got Volke and Fane that are invisible. Karna's dressed up as a guard or something like that on the Black Throne. This is one of those moments where we realize that Volke never taught Fane how to augment others to become invisible, because Fane struggled with this quite a lot before he was able to actually get them to turn invisible. I feel like this would have probably been something useful that they could have done while they were in transit from like New Nora, or literally any time between then and now. Again, 35 days on the back of Gentle. Any point in time at all. Come on now.
Volk is really struggling on the teaching front. Aviana's like, you're kind of a sucky teacher. Fane's not like, I couldn't learn this before.
Right. So Fane asks, what if something goes wrong? And all he has to say is, trust me, it won't.
Yeah, what you plan and what takes place ain't ever exactly been similar.
I don't know why, but people love to mess with Murphy and his law, and they like to poke the bear.
You don't expect that. Yeah.
Not at all. Like, you don't say what could, nothing worse could be going on right now. Like, 'cause inevitably something worse will happen.
And it's not like they're doing something like, run of the mill, easy little like quest. It's like, oh, we're just going to go sneak onto the ship of a king and hopefully steal from him and not get caught. And it's only like there's a Grim Reaper on the boat, so.
Or a sovereign dragon.
Yeah, mundane.
Or a bunch of Pegasus and unicorns. Like, no big deal. So, of course, the whole ship is made from nullstone, as we mentioned before, and this adds to the difficulty of everything else. And Karna they kind of break off. Volke and Fane go look for the captain's quarters. Karna sneaks down, trying to find keys for the captain's quarter. As she comes back up from beneath the ship, she's kind of like wobbling around. You thought maybe she had a couple drinks too many, and she just like leaves. And Volke and Fane are just standing there, probably like, but where are you going?
But nothing could go wrong. That does bring us to chapter 43, Life and Death Sense. They get to the captain's quarters, doors locked, so kind of quick resort, Luther slips under, unlocks the door. Because he can't go back into the shadows, they do end up merging so that they can keep the invisibility. And Fane does comment that it's really weird to see a nightmare merge with nothing, which probably is pretty cool because it then disappears.
Well, and not to mention the way that she describes Luther, literally like his chest opens sideways. And it does say that he is hollow on the inside, so we know that he is hollow.
I know. I just picture like little like Iron Man scene where it just like gets encased.
Yes, I love that.
They go into the quarters. They find essentially a lockbox, and Volke is going to end up trying to shadow lockpick it. He is able to get it open. It does have a flag with Callisto's, and Fane comments that essentially this is a flag that you fly if Callisto is coming aboard to essentially gain mercy from him. So he is in leagues with Callisto. It's not a good sign, but something to kind of note away that like, oh, Second Ascension is still working with Prince Roshan and Callisto and everyone involved.
I think Volke would have benefited from working on his lockpick ability from the beginning instead of trying to do it now. He also wanted to just yeet the lockbox out of the off the ship.
I just thought that was a pretty good idea.
Right.
It's like it's out of the nullstone at that point.
Exactly. And then he could have just broken it and not been worried at all.
No. He chose the difficult route, I think. Unfortunately, the next entrance into the captain's quarters is the Grim Reaper. It can sense that they're there, but it can't see them because of the invisibility. So it resorts to like a very cartoonish, like, I'm just going to swing my axe and hope that I hit something. It talks about like, show yourself, like, I'll show mercy if you show yourself. And Volke is like, my lying sense is going off. And I'm like, I didn't need a lying sense to know that was a lie. Like, what made you think this literal killing machine was going to show you mercy?
It's like one of the Iron Knuckles from Ocarina of Time or Majora's Mask. It's just meant to kill.
Yes. As they're going through, Volke is, trying to figure out how to handle this and really realizing I can't kill Demise. I have a weapon that's really good at killing things, but it can't kill Demise because of the King's Revenge.
How do you beat a Grim Reaper then? Because you can't kill them. They're incorporeal, so it's hard to actually like do physical damage to them. They can't get hit with terrors. So what are you supposed to do?
I don't know. I mean, when they had Callisto had the Reaper and essentially like pinned it down, and I think was just gonna like wait for it to starve to death or something. Like I don't know, but yeah, it seems tough to deal with them.
Shoot, yeah. I mean,
It's a good question.
yeah. Crap. How do you? I mean, Earl King could probably kill it, no problem.
Earl King could find another Grim Reaper.
And with that, chapter 44 decoy comes up. And now that we have Volk that's in a fight with Demise, Luther warns Volk that this isn't time for recklessness.
It might even be time to hesitate.
Yes, yes. The thing that we've been trying to convince Volk to not do this whole time. So Demise states that their death will grow his strength. So did Demise have a thing for like serial killing gravedigger apprentices?
I'm curious as well. Yeah, there's like which box do they fit in that was like the serial killing model?
Right. Was it like just a
Teenage
young
boys?
guy?
Was it like
Was it a father who had been convicted of murder? Was it like there's so many things that it could be that Volk is.
yes.
Volk had the idea to bring Forfend out of the shadows because one touch of Demise's axe could have killed him because he's obviously a higher than a tier 3 or a tier 3 and above with having that killing ability, and he uses the shield to repel some of these attacks. And he actually finds out that instead of like originally where if he absorbed all that magic and then it immediately uh, sent it back, he basically can use the shield as a whenever he wants to use kind of thing. So all of that fire that it absorbed earlier from Crimthan is now being shot back at Demise. And Volk actually almost kills Demise in this doing this.
Which murder suicide.
Yeah. And Luther's just like, wait, stop, don't do that. We're gonna kill him. Like, we don't want to do that. Please don't.
Luther's like, we're merged. I die with you.
Right. Like, this is not how this is supposed to go. So they were able to finally escape through the stained glass windows in the captain's quarters, since it's the only thing that's not covered in nullstone. And not only can Luther turn his cape into wings, but he can turn it into fins, apparently, and able to swim with his cape. Like, what can't you do with your cape, Luther? I want to know this.
It's amazing.
Like, I want one. Volk, his head almost explodes like a watermelon as Demise throws his axe through the water at him, and it lands into one of the posts right above his head. And he said that he could even feel the hairs on his head being moved by the force. And they're just straight trying to shake off the Grim Reaper. And Volk has an idea, and he starts shadow stepping them towards the disgusting center of the town. They end up shadow stepping into the spring that is jutting out disgusting water. And this turns out to be like the best plan or best idea because it is corrupt magic in there. And Demise actually can't find them, not only because he can't see them, but he can't sense them because of the corrupt magic in the water. Honest to God, I think they'll probably need like a month-long bath to get rid of the stench from that. But unfortunately, they don't have that kind of time. Volk wakes up in the infirmary again, because I mean, he did have just a pretty intense battle there. He realizes he doesn't have any clothes on again. Apparently, they have a thing against clothes in the infirmary.
No hospital gowns there.
At least cover get the front covered and show you some booty. But unfortunately, he wakes up with Ilya standing right next to him, and I just imagine that like, oh gosh. So they were able to find a true master arcanist. I don't know if it was Jevel or somebody else from the Huntsman Guild, but they were able to find somebody from the Huntsman Guild and to conclude that everybody that were potentially have been infected, they all are cured of it thanks to Vethika's renewal abilities with her Kepra. And there was so much rejoice in this. One of those like,
Yay.
oof, dodged a bullet there. At least we know it worked. Volke is trying to kind of coordinate, get things figured out for the next steps, and Master Zelfrey, we find out, is nowhere to be found. They're ready to take off and leave towards the World Serpent, but Karna and Master Zelfrey are both missing, and they both mysteriously just disappeared throughout the night.
It brings us to chapter 45, A Favor Owed. So Volk, Adelgis, Fane go out into the city. They're searching the city. Adelgis is hearing these really jumbled thoughts, and they start talking about owing Volk a favor. We do see that it ends up forming into the mother of shapeshifters. And we find out that Zelfrey and Karna went to visit her. She essentially called all of her children together to come see her. As they're going through this, the rats from around the city come up and form into moss. So, disgusting shape, gross rats now forming it. It's very strange.
With red eyes.
With red eyes, yes. And Volk goes to cash in on his favor and asks if Moss will help them get the World Serpent. She agrees, and Volk offers to let her come back to the manor, and she says she actually knows her way through the ancient worlds, which is pretty freaking cool. But there is a single mouse that goes and crawls into Volk's pocket.
He got a little friend. Let's just talk about the merchants that Volks interacts with a little bit earlier in this chapter. And they're basically like, "Oh, I'll sell you this. This is going to be such a great price. Like, oh my gosh, you're not from here. I'll give you a huge discount on this." And his spidey senses are like lie detecting senses are just tingling. Like, no, you're not. You're like, please just stop talking.
I can sense it.
With that ends our checks 41 through 45 today of the World Serpent. And since we didn't have any new mystical creatures to talk about this week, we're going to go back over a couple of the older ones that we've seen or have been introduced to but haven't really gotten a chance to talk about. We're going to go over the Griffin and the Cockatrice today. All right, we're going to start with the Griffin, and just as a brief reminder of what the Griffin looks like, depends on the male and females. Males are the head of a lion, and females are the head of an eagle. They have golden coats and dark brown manes, and their trial of worth is they must offer a display of courage, and that's typically done in a group. They're very social creatures, and in some societies, they have a festival held like we saw on the Isle of Landon in Dread Pirate Arcanist, the very beginning of it. Now, they are a tier 2 mystical creature, and they have a progeny, so they prefer to lay their eggs in cliffs where they have plenty of food and they feel safe. They are able to evocate bravery.
For manipulation, griffins and their arcanists can alter the durability and toughness of objects.
They can make them soft as pudding or as hard as steel. So Griffin arcanists often use the primary feathers of their Griffin Eldrin as improvised weapons. So these would definitely be great items to use for imbuing. They're able to augment perception, so they become immune to mind-altering effects such as illusions or magical domination, or compelled loyalty. So they are not going to be able to be convinced through magical means. With imbuing, they are able to bolster. Basically, it gives items extra defensive magical abilities to ward off fear. And again, with these feathers being able to be manipulated to stronger material, probably would be a great thing to use in weapons making as well. They actually have the Templar aura. They have a brilliant gold glow that shimmers around the area, and it increases their strength, their stamina, and willpower to superhuman levels. They are also able to make perfect concentration, and all nearby allies are made immune to mind-altering magics. So Volk would not be able to touch them with tears if they're using their auras. Nor would Master Arcanist Jevel.
He wouldn't target them.
No, he wouldn't try to target anybody. He would just... As an innate ability with the Griffins, they are immune to venoms and poisons, just like unicorns. So imagine a Griffin would be a little bit easier to make a trinket out of than a unicorn, because kind of have to, I would assume they would probably wouldn't let you cut off their horn.
Kind of important.
Kind of a thing, you know. So their true form type, or to become true form, they are virtue, and they have to embody the nobility, chivalry, and duty beyond all others in order for them to be able to transform. And this virtue encompasses the belief that knights are responsible for helping the whole of society rather than just themselves. Their true form appearance is that they grow in size and in comparison to the size of a carriage and have two heads. One is an eagle, one is a lion, regardless of their gender. And this massive and majestic beast has feathers and fur that always glisten as though perfectly clean. The creatures become clean even after rolling in mud or being splattered with blood. So actually, outside of them being true form, they also probably wouldn't have to worry about being infected with the plague either. Their true form ability is two hearts, and it basically, if a true form griffin or its arcanist dies in combat, their second heart is shattered and brings them back to life to continue to fight. And this can only happen once. So, like with the phoenix true form, they're able to bring back 7 people. Griffins basically get like 1 extra life. You know, they carry on the magical coin from
Ready Player One.
Their in-world lore is that they're often thought as very fondly, no matter the society they dwell in. And since they favor civilization, people, and loyalty, most consider them good creatures worthy of respect and admiration. When bonding, Griffin Arcanists take an oath: I will keep my word and my honor, for they are the currency of kings. I will protect the oceans and the sky, as griffins have given me their wings. I'll never turn to cruelty or surrender to the night. I'll be a shepherd of humanity and show the world my might. And again, this is something that we saw in book 1 or book 2 of the series Dead Red Pirate Arcanist as the Griffin ceremony happened. And in the real world application or inspiration, they have decorative motifs in ancient Middle Eastern and Mediterranean cultures. They've been a very, very popular mythological creature for thousands of years. In most legends, they appear to be sacred creatures that guard important places, either temples, palaces, or tombs. And the guardian aspect is what inspired most of the magical powers in the Frith Chronicles.
That brings us to the cockatrice. So cockatrices are described as a red chicken with a long scaled tail that ends in a snake's head. The snake's head functions like a normal venomous snake, complete with fangs and plenty of hissing. So many describe these tiny terrors as 1 part poultry, 1 part serpent in all attitude. So as they grow older, they do get stronger beaks, serrated edges, and larger wings capable of flight. To bond with them, you must bring them their favorite food. So they are essentially human in that aspect. They are tier 1, and reproduce through progeny. So they lay their eggs after consuming plenty of reptiles. So I'm guessing that is the favorite food. And without reptiles, the beast cannot reproduce. They are able to evoke rage, so create feelings of anger, desire to hurt people. So really small embers linger in the air while this evocation is active. So you can essentially tell that they are evoking anger. They are able to manipulate lizards. So both the cockatrice and the arcanist can manipulate non-magical and non-venomous lizards, controlling them fully. No, I want the venomous ones. Like, give me some deadly snakes.
Right?
They are able to augment paralysis. So when they augment themselves, they're immune to paralysis and petrifying effects. When they augment others, they do paralyze them fully, causing immobility until the magic has ended. Imbuing, you would imbue them for petrification or paralysis, and their aura is called the Trap Lounge. So when it comes into effect, there's a purple haze, and all the lizards gather around, compelled to act even if they don't want to.
I love it. It's like it reminds me of like a rave, like a lizard rave.
The lizard power is just so perfect. Like summoning all my little lizards to come party with me. They are immune to blood diseases and venoms, and can speak with poultry. Very useful, I'm sure. Their true form is Gaius-based, so they must kill a basilisk arcanist and their eldrin and eat part of their hearts. When they gain true form, they take on a draconic appearance. They have 4 legs, snake tail, a more reptilian head. The legs still resemble a chicken's, and they are about the size of a medium dog, so still fairly small. They do also gain the stone stare ability, which allows them to augment through their eyes rather than needing to touch someone, so essentially stealing that power from the basilisk. They are based on mischievous, troublesome hooligans, so there's a famous story called Calvin the Khaki, which describes a cockatrice arcanist and Eldrin who terrorize a town until the town collectively throws him down the well. At the end of the tale, Calvin's only allowed back into the town when he uses his magic to clear the disease-ridden lizard from the town's river. I want this story.
Yes. It's just like, even if it's just a short story, like, I need it more fleshed out.
Yes. I want the side quests story. This needs to be in there. They are inspired real world by myths that date back to the 15th century. So they're said to be an egg laid by a rooster, not a hen, a rooster, and incubated by a toad or snake. Both cockatrices and basilisks are confused for each other in ancient myth due to both having the power to paralyze individuals.
Right? Especially being a tier 1.
They've got a very fun magic set. Like, I'm weak, but I can control lizards and talk to poultry.
When it mentioned its favorite food, I'm like, oh, like, my chickens love donuts and voles and all sorts of random shit. Like, I can only imagine what these like. All right, with that, though, I think that covers everything today. And next week, we'll be going over 46 through 50 of World Serpent Arcanist. We're coming to a close here. Through about 3 more episodes left before we're done with World Serpent Arcanist. Then we'll be moving on to Warlord Arcanist, which is the one book that I always forget about. Because I'm almost like, wait, what's 6? Because I know 7 and 8 is Master and Grandmaster Arcanist, but what's 6? Yeah. So we are getting close to the end of this. We will be figuring out what we're going to do between books. We'll catch you guys next week.
Eric, Scott, and I want to thank everyone for listening today. We post a new episode every Wednesday morning at 11 Eastern, 10 Central, and 8 Pacific Standard Time. We are on all podcasting platforms and are also on YouTube as well for video. After the additional episode airs, we post chapter-by-chapter videos every day in a smaller, easier-to-digest format. We do want to give a special shout-out to the final member of our team, Dan Mackison, one of the admins for the Frith Chronicles Wiki, link listed below, and doing his best to keep everything running smoothly behind the scenes. If you want to reach out to us, you can email us at frithguildpod@gmail.com or on Facebook or any other social media by searching for Frith Guild Podcast. Just to remind everybody, we have links to everything in the description below on both the podcast and YouTube.
I actually found out that you can go to other different, like, other states, other counties in the states, and request like a membership or a library card through them, and then use their audio, like their library system.
That is cool. Because I always thought you had to, like, I mean, when I signed up for my library card, like, I had to prove that I lived, like, in whatever area. I don't know if, like, I mean, maybe it's the same with digital. Like, I don't get why I shouldn't be able to, like, go to a library. It never made sense to me. So,
Right. I had somebody tell me this when I was at work, and they're like, "Oh yeah, there's like Browden, I think it was Browden County library system in Florida that, like, I literally just signed up online for a library card through them with my address here in North Carolina, and it let me sign up for the library card, and then it let me sign up through Libby
I've used that too.
for their app. So